Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so fortunate to have the SDGOP Executive Director, Reggie Roden, with us. Reggie, it is so important. I know you know this. It is so important to make sure that when people submit their petitions, whether it's Democrat candidates or whether it's ballot measures, we need to be sure that those signatures are valid, because if they're not, and we can challenge this, we might be able to get them thrown off the ballot before they ever got on. So Reggie's here to show us how to challenge those and check, make sure they're valid. So Reggie, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for your willingness to participate in the 2024 petition verification process for the Democrat candidates that we have coming up. The due date is coming up here on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Mountain, 5 p.m. Central Time to file affidavits for challenge. Luckily, we've got people working hard all over the state to try and get this done, but we wanted to make sure that there was a video that went out to folks who might be interested in doing this further into commission, candidate nominating forms, or other statewide or local positions. So the first thing I'd mention is that all of the current legislative candidate nominating petitions for the Democrat Party have been purchased through the state GOP. We've already sent out an email to all the county GOPs with all of that information, with a little bit of supporting information on there as well, as far as a template for an affidavit to submit to the Secretary of State's office in the case of a challenge, as well as a bit of information on how to take out other petitions in the future. I believe the state GOP will just be working with these statewide legislative candidate petitions. So before I jump entirely in here, I just want to say that we also have resources available. I've kind of put together this sheet here, which is, well, I've started putting it together. It's just the nominating petition requirements checklist. And I understand this is a lot of words. Don't worry about this too much. This is a good resource to have if, say, you see an issue with the form. Maybe you want to go in and see if it's mentioned on here, or the notary or the circulator, etc. The way I break this down, and the way I'll break this down when we start looking at the petition, is I go by the form, and then the circulator and notary, and then, of course, our meat and potatoes, the actual signatures of the mess here. So jumping right into that, let me full screen our actual petition. And my apologies if any of these names here are familiar, or if I'm picking on anybody. The petition I have in front of me, I believe, is District 16, Matthew Ness. So just jumping right into the form. Like I said, we want to do the form, our notary, and circulator, and then we'll jump right into the actual signatures. So you'll see we have a block of text here up at the top, a block of text here. Very simply put, we just want to make sure that the format is what it matches what's prescribed on the SDSOS website and codified law. A lot of times, if there is an issue with that, you'll be going through and you'll see, maybe a huge gap that shouldn't be there. Maybe some words got scrunched up. Perhaps the candidate tried opening it in a Google Doc and it messed up the formatting. We definitely want to make sure that it's numbered correctly. So it can either come on letter form paper or legal form paper. Legal, being a little bit longer, can hold up to 30 total signatures. You'll see this is the letter size paper with only 20. And so that's the first thing I'll go through and just make sure that everything is formatted consistently. Everything's the same. There's no outliers. I always put signatures last. I like to break things down into trinities of trinities. But one thing I'll also check when I'm scrolling through the actual form, just making sure everything is consistent, is I'll look at the date of signing. So this big stamp here was new to me because I worked at the Secretary of State's office last year. We verified petitions for a bit. I didn't become an expert on it by any means, but the folks at the office, they do a very good job so far as making sure things are the correct form, helping candidates to ensure that they're doing things correctly without giving too much counsel. There's only so much they can do legally. But they do a good job of checking a lot of this information outside the petition's signatures. Sometimes the signatures are a little bit hard to find. We'll get into that in a second. But we want to make sure that none of these were signed before the date of March 21st uh, or are absent a date for that matter as well. So looking through that, they're all pretty consistently numbered. A lot of dates grouped together. Makes our job pretty easy. We just skim right through all those. I'll allow you all to do that on your own when you're looking at these. So the second thing we want to look at is the circulator, which is going to be at the bottom of the second page. Now, all these have to be self-contained, double-sided. So there will be signatures on the front and back, and there's not really any way to verify that completely via PDF, but I mean, the person in charge of elections is not going to miss that, so we don't have to worry about, like I said, a lot of that information in that sheet we were looking at a moment ago. So we've got the printed name of the circulator, and I'm going to go through this slow because sometimes this does look like just a wall of scribbles to me too, and sometimes something does get go by the wayside. But we can see we've got a proper residence address. I might even just check to see if that's the same residence address that's listed up at the top here. And it is, and I don't know necessarily that it needs to be, but we definitely want to keep an eye out for anything too fishy. Yeah, Canton, South Dakota's, no, South Dakota's, excuse me, the zip code doesn't necessarily need to be there, but it's fine. And a general rule, and I don't mean to speak too loosely, I don't mark my words on this, but a lot of different aspects on a kind of a subjective level I'm speaking here, is if you can verify what the information is through supporting evidence, then a lot of times it'll be acceptable. We want to make sure that people are ensured their their civic rights and whatnot. So we've got the appropriate sworn to date before the petitions were actually verified by the person in charge of elections. Signature of circulator was Matthew Ness himself. That makes things more simple. One thing would be to just kind of keep an eye out. You can, that's a good question. More questions pop up the more you look at these. The notary cannot sign and be the notary, for one. That'll invalidate their signature up here in the box. It won't invalidate the entire form. I believe the circulator can also be a signer, and the candidate can also be a signer, but obviously can't be a signer more than once. And if they are a signer more than once, it doesn't invalidate both, it just invalidates one of the signatures, to my knowledge. Look, we've got, looks like, I want to say Sherry Lund. And sometimes I'll just look, see if that's consistent across the board. It doesn't look like it here. Got a different name here, a different name at the bottom. And I've been kind of putting it off. A lot of you have probably already noticed, and I'll give you a second if anyone wants to shout it out. What we see that's incorrect so far via the notary. Oh, that is correct. Our commission expires. It just says term here. Just says term. So this is one I've already submitted a question on this. There's a little bit of, I wouldn't call it gray area, but confusion when it comes to, obviously these need to be notarized, but does the lack of the commission invalidate the entire notary? And if so, it probably invalidates the entire petition. So we're going to have an answer on that ourselves. No worries there. I was just taking a quick water break. Apologies if my voice kind of comes in and out. Been a bit hoarse over the weekend. I think I caught on to whatever that's been going around the area the past few weeks. But let's jump right into the actual petitions here. Now I've got one already pulled up. That was Leanne Lathrop. She was number 6. Well, since we've already got her typed in here, let's just use her as an example. This can kind of be a pain the first couple times on the website. The website I'm on here to verify these petition signatures is vip.sdsos.gov. That's the voter information portal website through the Secretary of State's office. Excuse me. And you'll get this maybe the first time or two, even though you put in everything correctly. Now, one thing I did forget to mention is the zip code. A lot of people won't list a zip code, but luckily, looking at this signature, everyone's Lincoln County, everyone's in Canton. We know the zip code in Canton is 57013. And if we don't know that, we can just scroll down until we find someone, one of the many people that did list it there for us. So we'll search for Leanne. Let's see, Leanne Lathrop, could be Lothrop, looking at the signature here. So we'll try that instead. Now we'll try this again. There we go. Sometimes it just takes a couple of tries, but once you get it the first time, it usually works a lot better each time after that. So we've got her pulled up here. We can see the address is matching, so that's just 100% good. Political party Dem, that's the main thing. I believe it's listed somewhere you cannot challenge whether a person resides at the actual address that they list, so it's not so important. The main thing is that Democrats sign Democrat petitions, Republicans sign Republicans sign Republican petitions, and anyone can sign independent petitions, according to the How to Circulate nominating petition sheet on the Secretary of State's website. So now that we've got our first person looked up, it's easier because we've already got the verification code in. We've got our zip code already, so we're just going to go back up to top and try out Edith Nelson. Fun fact, Nelson is actually the most popular last name in the state of South Dakota. Ah, interesting. So we see here Edith, at least this Edith Nelson. Again, it's the most popular name in the popular last name in the state. But verified the address, that's her. She is still registered Republican. Now, she may have accidentally done so in the past or forgot to update her voter registration, or maybe just wasn't properly explained the rules, or the rules were misunderstood. At any rate, I've got this printed out in front of me. I definitely think that's the best way to keep track of these, is to have them printed out. And I'm just going to put a little check mark next to Edith and move on. So one other thing to look at here on the form, Secretary of State's office has been real good about this, the way that they mark these. So a lot of times you'll see a little red tick in the bottom left corner indicating, like, I think that means no errors on this page, or maybe it just means that this page has been checked with no errors. And then when they get to the bottom, they'll put 20, which is the total that they were able to find in the system. And, you know, I don't claim to understand how everything works on the back end, but it could be that, I don't know what it could be. She shows up as Republican on the website, so that's what we're going to go with. Let's just keep it simple as that. So let's go into number 2. Let's do Thomas and Kara Hankey. And apologies for picking on these lovely folks, our fellow South Dakotans. Well, we're going to put in Thomas. Looks like an H to me. Hankey. Sometimes you might have to look at the printed version. Sometimes you might have to look at the signature. Sometimes you might have to look at the wife's last name to figure it out. But however you can find them in the system, and if we can't find them in the system, we can list that as well on our affidavit. But it's very likely that the Secretary of State's office was able to locate them. I still it wouldn't deter me from listing that person if I thought that, you know, maybe this name is very well written and they just don't show up or something like that. So this person is a Democrat, and we can just go right back, throw in the wife's first name and hit enter. Democrat, so they are both good. And you just kind of keep going like that down through the list, making sure that all the information is present. Now, if the information is not on the correct line, that's fine. as long as you can reasonably find their voter registration, confirm that they are a registered voter, that it's okay for them to be doing this. There are some of these I've seen that were just filled out so absurdly that they were rejected, even though uh, you know, maybe the date was written outside the box. That's a big thing, is if things are written outside the box, a lot of times it'll invalidate. But making sure that everything is present, everything is correct, and just, yeah, pretty much going through it like that. So that's kind of the short end of the tutorial. We'll stop right here and see if we can go to questions.